Well, the price of eggs have been a touchy subject for many over the last few years. Today's CPI report showed that the prices are still rising, up 5.5% on a monthly basis and 19.1% year over year, peaking at $4.82 per dozen in January 2023, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS. It has since come down, but hasn't returned to pre-pandemic levels. So how much can we expect an omelet to cost by the end of the year? Joining me now, we've got Tom Flocco, who is the CEO of egg producer Pete and Gerry's. Great to have you here. Okay, so I mean, what's going on? Like, what is changing so materially that the price of eggs is going up this much? I think 19.1% year over year.
Yeah. Good morning, Brad. Thanks for having me on. Great question. It's probably important to start with just an understanding of the egg market, and there really are two elements of the egg market. There's the conventional commodity egg that you see in the well in the store, and then there are premium eggs like ours, Pete and Gerry's and Nellie's, that really are affected by a whole different pricing dynamic. So that 19% that you're seeing is at the commodity end, and that's a supply-driven price spike, the same way it was back in 22. Back in 22, avian influenza hit the industry very hard. It took about 50 million birds out of the supply chain, but most of that, almost all of that, was at the caged and cage-free end, birds that never get outside, where you have several 100,000 birds in a barn. And so when one bird gets infected, the entire barn gets taken out, and all those birds, unfortunately, need to be put down for safety reasons. That's where you're seeing that inflation. At the premium end of the category, where we are, you're not seeing that same inflation. Our prices today are actually lower than they were a year ago to the end consumer.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. That sucks, Tom, honestly. And it's a big task for you and your business to navigate through as well. You know, I wonder, you know, even as you're kind of laying out all of the different variables that you have to account for, what is the largest, perhaps, increase or input in costs and expense that you've seen in order to just make sure that you can still get product to so many of the partners that you have, that you distribute to?
Yeah, so the biggest cost inputs that affect our pricing is going to be grain. I mean, it's the single biggest cost input to a dozen eggs. It can be as much as 50% of the cost of a dozen eggs, because it's not just corn and soybean. It's also a lot of nutrients that we put in there to make sure the birds are healthy, that the eggs are the best tasting eggs they can get. But there's also a transportation component of it. We are on 200 plus family farms that we contract with. We don't own any of them. We contract with those farmers. We spread from Oklahoma to Maine, all the way up to Wisconsin, and all the way east. And so we have to truck those eggs to our 3 processing facilities so that they can be sorted, graded, packed, and then sent out to our retail partners. So there's a lot of cost there. And then the third big input is labor. And we all know that labor has seen some inflation over the last 18, 24 months. So that's an important component of our cost structure as well.
Tom, we also know the challenges that businesses like yours are navigating, especially when it comes to climate change as well. And, you know, that's almost kind of exemplified through what you were just telling us about the prevalence of even more diseases that could spread through the flock as well, or through your operations, and have a detrimental impact. How is that something that your business is navigating through, that also plays into this broader inflation picture too?
So for us, the avian influenza hasn't actually affected our business very much at all, because our farms are so decentralized. We don't have any one farm that accounts for a meaningful part of our production. So again, the 22 cycle, we had one farm that was hit. This last cycle, which is still going on, it's lasted a lot longer than people thought. It usually dies down by now. We haven't had any farms that have been affected, so touch wood for that. So we're feeling insulated against it, but we also have a very high standard of biosecurity at every one of our farms. All of our farms have to be compliant. Our trucks have to be compliant, that are going in and out of these facilities, so that we're not, in fact, spreading that disease, and we're not affected at our end.
Got it. Tom Flocco, who's the CEO of Pete and Gerry's. Tom, thanks so much for taking the time here with us today, helping us wrap our minds around, as consumers, as we know you are probably as well, on the other side of this inflation print, and trying to get a good sense of what's going into some of these prices too. Tom, appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me. Welcome.